We have to talk about the Texans day two picks. You see what hat I got on, so you know what time it is, man. I stayed up on Thursday night. The Texans had the 25th overall pick. I stayed up. I fell asleep, got back up. By the time the pick rolls around, trade. I was sick, man. I wish I got, some of that sleep back that night. But nonetheless, day two, Friday night, man. I feel like the Texans made some value picks, addressed some of the biggest needs that the team had coming into this offseason. Now, by no means am I some type of scout, NFL scout, college scout. I'm not breaking down a film. I'm just saying what I feel, um, how I felt about the picks, and what I think they'll bring to the table. Now, second round, of course, I talked about the trades. By the way, the Texans have traded the most so far in this NFL draft. I just got the notification from Adam Schefter or ESPN, one of those. But nonetheless, with the first pick that the Texans made was Jayden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State, 6'4", ran a 4.40, has good hands. He's fluid. And oh, by the way, he was about 1,100 yards this past season, second team, all Big 12. So had a really, really good year as a Cyclone. Um, Now I was watching his film. He seemed fluid, like I mentioned. Catches the ball with his hands. He's not a body catcher. 6'4". He uses his body, so he plays like he's 6'4". You know, so that is a plus as well. Now, of course, wide receiver was one of the biggest needs for the Texans this offseason. You lose Stephon Diggs in free agency. Well, not lose him, but he doesn't sign back. Um, Tank Dell, of course, he's still dealing with that injury he suffered at the end of the year. So Jayden Higgins, and he wasn't really a guy that people really talked about coming into this draft. It was mainly, of course, Travis Hunter, Tet, Matthew Golden out of Texas, even Luther Burden. Even though Luther Burden was drafted behind him, you look at a lot of those mock drafts, and I'm not just talking about any old mock draft. I'm talking about ESPN, those CBS's, those big names. Luther Burden was projected, for a good part of the year, he was projected to go late first round. So Jayden Higgins, he kind of flew under the radar, and the Texans scooped him up, and I'm excited to see what he brings to the team. And another thing, I was looking at his ESPN. So ESPN, of course, I was on the tracker throughout throughout the night, keeping up with the draft, and one of the comps, well, the comp was from one of the whoever was the featured writer said that his comp was Nico Collins. Now, this is no knock on Higgins, but I don't see Nico Collins. I know they're both 6'4", they're both big bodies, but Nico has a little bit more pop to his game. As we know, he's a top 10 wide receiver, in my opinion. But Nico has a little bit more burst, a little bit more pop. He's a little bit more explosive. Jayden Higgins, he's physical as well, but more so uses his body, and he knows how to use his body. But I don't see Nico. To me, I don't see Nico. The second round, the Texans also got Aireontae Ersery, offensive tackle out of Minnesota. He was the Big Ten offensive lineman of the year, first team all Big Ten, 6'6", 330. Now, of course, like I said, I'm not breaking down film, but the Texans this all season offensive line was another priority. Needing to shore up that offensive line. Larry Tunsil was traded. Shaq Mason is gone. Kenyon Green was traded. The offensive lineman, the old offensive line coach he's gone. So a lot of changes have been made. I think about 4 or 5 new guys coming in the training camp, and then you add Aireontae. So things are shaking up. We gotta protect CJ. Gotta make pave the way from Joe Mixon. We know how talented he is when he gets that space. So offensive line was another priority, as all Texans fans know. In the third round, get Jaylen Noel, another Iowa State Cyclone. Two teammates. We got two of the top, both of the top wide receivers from Iowa State. Now he was used a lot in the slot at Iowa State, vertical threat. Big plays down the field. He's a fast guy, 4'3", 40. And he's not like a little guy, right? He's not a, he's not tall in stature, but he's not, built like he's not 170, he's not 180. He's close to 200. So I think he'll be able to, take those hits. He can make those acrobatic catches down the field. Of course, like I say, he can stretch the field. So that's another weapon for CJ potentially. And also, Noel adds to the return game, right? We brought in Braxton Berrios, who, if I'm not mistaken, was an all-pro Pro Bowler about 2 or 3 years ago, as a return specialist. And then you bring in Noel. So I think those two will be competing as that returnman, whether at kick returner or punt returner or both, or maybe we see splits. Maybe we see one guy at punt returner or one guy at kick returner. Who knows? Only time will tell, and we'll see. Week one what Coach D'Amico comes up with. So I like that pick as well. Of course, we dealt with a lot of injuries. Nico, that potential lineup going into last year, Nico, Steph, and Tank, a lot of folks were excited, man. I was excited. On paper, looked like the best trio in the league, but unfortunately, injuries happen, and those guys, I believe, only played a total of 3 or 4 games together. That's crazy, considering how talented those three guys are. So I can see why, Nick Casario, D'Amico, they want a lot of depth. You never know, these injuries, man. They're tough, and you don't know when they're coming. So you just gotta be prepared. Next man up. And I'll touch on that wide receiver room as well, man, because right now it's a lot of people in that wide receiver room, and of course we know that you can only keep so many. You can only keep so many. Also in the third round, you get Jaylon Smith, DB out of USC. He's like a jack of all trades type of defensive back. 5'11", about 190. Another super athletic guy. I see him as a special teams, plug and play type of player. He's a willing tackler. I think he's going to be, like I said, on special teams. Um, making plays downfield, on fourth down and on kickoffs or whatever the case may be. Because as we know, that DB room is stacked. That DB room is stacked right now. I think the Texans, of course, I'm a fan, but I feel like a lot of people will agree that the DBs that the Texans have are probably, some of the best, one of the best rooms in the league. Has to be. You got Sting. You got, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but the rookie from last year. Oh, Lassiter. You got Lassiter. You got Petrie. He just signed a big deal. Sting got his big deal as well. You got Kalen Bullock, who was Smith's teammate at USC, and then of course traded for CJ Gardner-Johnson this offseason coming from the Eagles. So it's a lot of guys, man. So I don't think he won't get those starting minutes, of course, barring injury, right? Like I said, you never know when it's going to happen, but I see him more of a special teams guy, and I like that pick as well. And a little bit, man, I posted this on my Instagram, and he was one of the kids on Coach Snoop. If you watch Coach Snoop, the Netflix series with Snoop Dogg and his football organization, he was one of the main kids featured throughout that series. So it's kind of cool seeing, the progression from, watching him as a kid, and now he's in the league. And I know Snoop has produced, I know there's been a lot of kids that came from his organization or his league that are now in the NFL or played in the NFL in the past. So I think that's cool, man. And one thing I wanted to point out on a lighter note, if you are wearing some type of variation of red or yellow, it looks like you will be a Houston Texan, man. Just look at all these, look at the pictures, man, in the background. Iowa State, Minnesota, USC. I thought that was kind of funny, man. But nonetheless, oh yeah, I wanted to touch on the wide receiver room. Like I said, you got Nico traded for Christian Kirk. What Justin Watson? You picked up Justin Watson, Braxton Berrios. You already have Xavier Hutchinson, who's also another Iowa State Cyclone. We got three Iowa State wide receivers on the same team. I don't know if that's the first time in NFL history. Somebody got to look that up. But you got Hutch, you got Mechie, and then you just draft two wide receivers. You got, like I said, Higgins and Noel. So come, that first game of the year, man, I don't think we'll be seeing all of those guys on the team. Like I said, there's only so many spots that you can have. So you're looking at a lot of guys battling for their jobs this offseason and training camp. So that's my thoughts, man. I thought we hit on some, we addressed our needs with wide receiver, offensive line. We'll see how these guys pan out. But in the comments, let me know your thoughts on the Texans' day 2 picks of the 2025 NFL draft.